This thing is already breaking so many records. It is sure to end its run in theaters as one of the highest grossing movies of all time. And it is the only Marvel film releasing in 2024. It is time to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for Deadpool and Wolverine. And yes, this is a spoiler-free movie. I'm going to talk very, very minimally about the plot, and I'm not going to talk about any of the cameos or any of that. You may have heard some of that stuff elsewhere, but if you've not seen the movie yet, feel free to continue watching this review. I'm not going to really talk about any of the details of the film, just kind of review it in general. So before we launch into the specifics of my thoughts, though, let me welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We've got movie and TV reviews on the channel, and just about every day something new goes up. So there's always a lot to check out, whether it be movie-related content or television, and you can click that subscribe button, click the like button, and comment below. All that stuff, of course, helps the channel out. And check out my Letterboxd as well. It's a really great website and app to sort of rate movies and make lists and all that sort of stuff. And I keep a movie diary of all the movies I've seen, and rate them accordingly, and you can check out all of that stuff on my Letterboxd profile that's in the description below. All right, so let's talk about this movie, Deadpool and Wolverine. So in the most basic terms, let's boil it down to sort of, how good is it in the pantheon of the MCU? So this is the 34th official movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is certainly not the best. It's not even the best Deadpool movie, and it's certainly not the best Wolverine movie. That would be Logan. And the Deadpool movie is still the first, would be the best one there. However, is it the best Marvel movie that has come out in years? Not counting the animated Spider-Man movies? Yes, I think that is safe to say. It's the best, certainly since Spider-Man No Way Home, which was the last live-action Spider-Man. And I think I'm going to give this one about the same grade as I gave that. So I could take or leave that choice of which one is better. But yeah, I mean, the Marvel movies of late have been from basically like average to terrible. There have been some really, really, bad ones in there. I would say this is one of the best just superhero movies in the last few years, but The Flash does exist over at DC, and that was a great, great movie that sort of did not get a lot of love. But anyway, let's get back to this. So this is directed by Sean Levy, and this is his first foray into the Deadpool universe, but he has, done a lot of movies that you've seen, even if you don't really know his name. He did Night at the Museum. He did Big Fat Liar, which was a fantastic movie from about 20 years ago, good family comedy. Date Night with Tina Fey and Steve Carell. He did Real Steel with Hugh Jackman, so he has worked with Hugh before. This Is Where I Leave You, which is an excellent movie, and he did a couple of recent Ryan Reynolds movies as well, Free Guy and The Adam Project. So he's worked with both of these leads on other projects. And yes, obviously, in Logan, Wolverine dies. Hugh Jackman, as Wolverine dies. However, and again, spoiler free, I think how they bring Hugh Jackman back into the series was very, very well done. I don't think it necessarily tarnishes the legacy of what an excellent film Logan is. So we can at least say that. But essentially, in the plot, we've got the Time Variance Authority that was, I guess, first introduced in Loki. I assume probably watching both the Loki seasons would be helpful before watching this, but boy, they catch you up right away. And of course, a lot of fourth wall breaking. So, Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool even tells you certain episodes of Loki that might have been helpful to watch. But that was, I think, the first time I had heard of the TVA, the Time Variance Authority. So they kind of factor in here, and essentially the entire fate of the world and the specific timeline that they're in, that Deadpool is in, and his friends and everything is, it's hanging in the balance, and so he's got to team up with Wolverine to try and save that timeline, and thereby, saving kind of everything. It's typical superhero movie type stuff, and I'll be honest, kind of confusing when they get into the different timelines and the different the multiverse stuff. Look, I get a little lost, and I don't think I'm stupid, but I think it is very, very dense, and maybe that's purposeful to kind of throw people off and say, look, maybe this doesn't have to make a ton of sense. Just watch it and have a good time. And I certainly did. This movie, even though the plot is questionable and confusing, and I'm not sure if it makes sense in several different spots, even within the context of itself, I had a great time watching this movie. It is what you want a Deadpool movie to be. It's funny as hell. It's filthy as hell. A lot of fourth wall breaking, a lot of jokes. And what's interesting is, so Sean Levy co-wrote the script with Ryan Reynolds, who of course plays Deadpool. I never said that, but of course we know that already. And, four other people. So usually when you get a script with that many sort of hands in the pot, it's kind of a red flag, right? You're like, okay, this story's going to be all over the place, and there's too many people writing things and whatever. But with a movie like this, where there's so many quick jokes, my guess is a lot of people in the writer's room were just kind of pitching jokes, pitching fourth wall breaks. And so probably, the schematics of the plot were maybe just one or two people, and a lot of the other people were just kind of piling on with different jokes, and they wrote enough to kind of get a credit, in the beginning there. That's kind of my thought process on it, because usually when you see four or more people writing a movie, it's kind of a red flag. But with a movie like this, I don't think that's necessarily the case, just because there's so many jokes. So what else can I say without really talking about the plot? The jokes. Okay, let's keep on the jokes, I guess. I think we do have a lot of jokes aimed at Disney. Disney, of course, bought Fox years ago after Deadpool 2 had come out, or maybe right around the same time. I think Deadpool 2 was maybe complete, but then they bought Fox before it was released, or whatever it was. But it was a few years ago, and everybody at the time was like, oh my God, what are they going to do with Deadpool? And there was some logic that, okay, maybe Disney only bought Fox to ingratiate the X-Men into the MCU. And that's certainly still possible. I think they also wanted a piece of Avatar. There's, a few other things. But in terms of the MCU, sure, that makes sense. Deadpool is part of the X-Men. Is the Fantastic Four and the X-Men characters and all of that. So Disney now owns all of that for movies. Okay, great. So there's a lot of jokes about, oh, this is Disney's first time, talking about this, or, oh, Disney, wink, wink, whatever. They got a little old, to be completely honest. They kind of dropped that after about an hour, but there were a lot of Disney jokes, and that's fine. I get it. But there were also a lot of repeat jokes about certain sexual things. I will say I love how sexually fluid Deadpool is as a character, and Ryan Reynolds really, as an actor, to kind of go out there and be like, look, it doesn't matter, gay, straight, bi, any of the rainbow is fine. I like that, because Deadpool is, a menacing character. He's a deadly character, obviously. But he is also a very sexual character, which may be, a good part of that R rating, probably. But, also the violence and the cursing, but I think the sexual component, but I just love, how fluid Deadpool is sexually as a character, because we don't really see that a lot. Certainly not in superhero movies, but just, in mainstream cinema in general. So I love seeing that. The jokes, I would say, landed, a good portion of the time. Maybe 75, 80% of the jokes landed, which is a pretty good ratio for a movie like this. The violence is there. The opening scene is absolutely incredible, and that leads me to the soundtrack, because I think there's a very particular piece of music at the beginning of the movie that we all know and love, and in fact the song skyrocketed it back into the top 20 on like the worldwide chart or whatever on Billboard because of this movie. Ryan Reynolds and his team pick just the best music for these movies, kind of obscure pieces in some parts and very, very well known in other parts, but sort of with a twist. They're well known as maybe a happy, jolly song, but we're going to set it to a really, violent scene or a really sexual scene. And it works out for these movies. So look, overall, I think I've talked enough in vague terms about this movie, that it is time enough to give it a grade. The first Deadpool for me is like easily an A. It's one of the best superhero movies I think ever. Just so great and so game changing. The second one a little less so. This is definitely more on par with that, just because it is so confusing, but it's funny as hell. It's I would think the funniest movie of the year. I can't think of anything I've seen where I laughed harder than I did here. So I leave Deadpool and Wolverine with a B plus. And definitely, probably about on par with the second one, I would say. Each kind of have their benefits. But boy, oh boy, what a game changer for the box office and for Disney on the whole. So check it out if you haven't yet. And if you have, then you know how good it is. Let's wrap it there. And thank you for watching Dave Reviews It. I'll see you next time.